All right, lift off and the clock has started.
Hey everyone, I'm Tom June. This past week, on March the 16th, Virgin Orbit announced that they were suspending operations for a week, furloughing all employees, and seeking alternative strategic opportunities. So, what the heck is going on with Virgin Orbit, and what does this mean? Let's dive straight into this one. So, as we all know, and anyone that's followed my channel for a little while now, ever since the failure of Launcher 1 during the Start Me Up mission in January, Virgin Orbit have been hanging on tenterhooks, right? The eyes of the world were on that mission, and the eyes of the world were even more on that mission when Launcher 1 failed. Now, if you want to understand the reasons why Launcher 1 failed, I did release a video on that recently, and you can check it out. I'll add the relevant links, so go have a look for yourselves. Now, to understand Virgin Orbit's position following the failure of Launcher 1, we actually need to go back a little bit. Because, you see, the only financial figures that we have available for Virgin Orbit, and to understand why they're in such dire straits, actually come from their Q3 2022 results, which were published on November the 7th of last year. Those financial results take us up to September, but what we can see is that at that time Virgin Orbit had free cash of about $71 million available. They had an asset valuation of somewhere between $200 and $300 million. Now, that all sounds relatively healthy, you know, $200 to $300 million worth of assets, which includes Cosmic Girl, all of the various engine components and what have you, anything with a financial value. And $71 million in the bank doesn't sound too bad, does it? Well, except that Virgin Orbit's monthly operations cost is $20 million. And each launch of Launcher 1 only nets them $12 million. That's right, it only costs $12 million to buy a Launcher 1 rocket to send your payloads on. Now obviously that's split between all of the various companies that rideshare for them. So with $71 million in the bank back in Q3 of 2022, it's no wonder that financial analysts were predicting that they only had enough free cash reserves to take them up to mid-March at best. Well, this is mid-March and here we are. Not only that, but we have to remember that following the Start Me Up failure, Richard Branson himself pumped another $15 million worth of his own money into the company. That takes him to a total of $55 million of his own investment, and that's repayable at 12% interest. Now, you'd think that Virgin Orbit being part of the wider Virgin Group, surely those finances would be all tied in together. In a way they kind of are. However, Virgin Orbit, they're actually registered as Virgin Orbit Holdings Limited. So they're a separate limited company. Now, a little while ago, up to 2 years ago, they did an initial public offering. And at that time, they were hoping to raise somewhere between $300 and $600 million. They also merged with a special purpose acquisition company, basically to help them try and raise more funds. But they only raised $68 million. That's about 3.5 months worth of operations costs. Not very much at all. Now, Virgin Orbit did recently sign a contract with Satrev, the Polish satellite manufacturer. But try as I might, I have yet to find a financial figure attached to that contract. I actually believe it's more of an agreement where any financial sums would be drip-fed to Virgin Orbit per launch. It's much like the contract that they signed with NASA back in 2021. That contract was worth up to $300 million. But Virgin Orbit, from my understanding, are yet to carry out any launches for NASA. So none of that money has actually come in. And like I said, it's a contract worth up to $300 million, not a flat $300 million. All this basically means is that Virgin Orbit have a lot of contracts worth something. But because they're not launching, they're not making anything off of it. Virgin Orbit have only launched 6 times. Now, in previous videos, I would always try to put a positive spin on that, because 4 of those missions have been successful. But if you look at it from a financial standpoint, that means they've only made $48 million from previous launches. The simple fact is that after the Start Me Up mission failed and Launcher 1 had its problems, the stock dropped quite a lot. Public and investor confidence went through the floor because the eyes of the world were on it, given the type of mission that it was. It was historic. It was supposed to be the first rocket launch from mainland UK soil, and Virgin Orbit kind of fluffed it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it here. They fluffed it. Okay. Now, yes, these things happen, but the result is that Virgin Orbit have been skating on thin ice ever since. Yet they made $1 million from Spaceport Cornwall, who basically only have a contract with Virgin Orbit. At the moment, Virgin Orbit are the UK's only means of launching rockets from mainland soil. So, yeah, 4 successful flights, a recent historic failure, investor confidence, public confidence through the floor, and no more money left. So, let's break down their statement again. First of all employees have been furloughed. Now, this is a furlough without pay. Basically, that means that they've all been sent home with cardboard boxes in hand, and they're free to seek alternative employment. Also, suspending operations for a week. Why a week? Well, my best guess is that gives them time to get the administrators in, to look at the books, to value their assets, and to put a valuation on the company. Because that ties in nicely to that little key phrase that they used there, seeking strategic alternative opportunities. Where have we heard that before? Well, for anyone that follows football, and Manchester United in particular, that's the exact phrase that was used by the Glazer family last year when they said that they were seeking strategic financial alternatives for the football club. All the financial analysts basically said, yep, the football club is now up for sale. They retorted, no it wasn't, but yet they invited soft bids from, potential interested parties. We've seen those bids go in, and yeah, it's up to the Glazers to decide if they're wanting to sell the club. And yes, I digress a little bit, but it's the exact same statement used by Virgin Orbit. So, with an educated guess, I would say that Virgin Orbit are now up for sale. Obviously, Richard Branson has a hand in that as well, because there's a significant debt owed to him. But suspending operations for a week gives them time to value the company, and then I would expect a statement to come from them at the end of this coming week, basically saying what they're going to do. Now, are Virgin Orbit dead? Well, not entirely yet, but they are as close as they have ever been, and we should find out by the end of this coming week exactly what they're going to do. There's still time for them to turn it around. I know that Melissa Thorpe, the head of Spaceport Cornwall, is hopeful that Virgin Orbit can turn it around. They are still going to proceed with their space cluster down in Cornwall, because there's some really exciting things happening. I mentioned Gravity Lab and their recent drone drop a couple of videos back. So there are things happening down there. But like I said, Virgin Orbit at the moment, until other systems come online, like Orbex and Skyrora and a few other things. There's horizontal launches planned for Prestwick Spaceport, but that's all later on. Virgin are the UK's only means of getting rockets off mainland soil and launching them to orbit. So if Virgin Orbit go under, the UK has just lost its only means of sending things to space from home soil. And that would be a very, very dark day for the country indeed. We'll have to wait and see how it pans out for Virgin Orbit, but based on the finances alone, it's really not looking good. It's really not looking good for the UK, and yeah, we'll have to see how this one pans out. I've been Tom June. Thanks for watching.